Across the valley, as animal shelters are overwhelmed with abandoned pets, Clark County leaders are getting closer to making a crucial decision whether pet stores will keep selling pets like puppies and kittens. Today, both sides passionately pled their case.
Their fear of puppy mills and their blame is that pet stores are contributing large volumes. But what we're forgetting is that there's backyard breeders.
Pet stores and their workers say they are fighting to stay open and keep jobs.
Contacted personally 100 people who have purchased dogs in a pet store. 0 were in shelters.
They say more than a dozen pet stores across Clark County that do sell puppies are not to blame for Clark County's crisis. The Animal Foundation, shelters, and rescue groups are overwhelmed with unwanted pets. To tackle the problem, Clark County is considering whether to ban dogs, cats, rabbits, and pigs from pet stores, like other major cities in California have done. Stores argue, unlike backyard breeders, they give incentives to spay and neuter and have microchips and deal with USDA licensed breeders.
This ban will force me and others to go through backyard breeders.
I take in fosters. I've gotten several dogs from pet stores, and they all suffered some kind of serious medical conditions.
Kitten season every year is brutal and only keeps getting worse. Why are we breeding more when we have so many already?
Animal advocates and the leader behind the proposal, Commissioner Michael Naft, question the standards pet stores use to screen breeders, or say there are already more than enough pets of any kind you could ever want in the shelter.
If everything was good, pet stores should be able to sell pets. At this time, we don't need any more animals in the system. We need to shut down any new animals coming in this town.
Clark County leaders held off on a vote and pushed a possible decision to December. Leaders want to look at the impact of the similar law in California and whether it has actually led to more or fewer animals in shelters.